And we're live. Welcome to the Leaders Live Roundtable. We're on week 7 already. We are just having some amazing conversations here. This is Conscious Community Conversations. We feel here at Flow Network discussing important topics are so important, especially across the generation, which is exactly what we have here today, as we do every week. And today's topic is acceptance. So stay tuned. We're going to have a deep dive conversation. Welcome. Let's welcome everybody to the Tim, Rome, Amy, welcome, Jaden, Stephanie, Rick. Thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you to all of our viewers. We so love your comments, so we're here looking at them. We'll bring them up on the screen. Before we get into our free flow conversation about acceptance, I'm going to read everybody's bios, which is going to take a little bit of time, but so worth it because it's just so interesting to hear the diversity that we have at the table, which is, we feel, so important to bring diversity together around a common theme. So we have Rick Spence in the house. Welcome, Rick. Rick is a journalist, consultant, and speaker specializing in innovation and entrepreneurship. He is currently senior editor at Corporate Knights, the magazine of clean capitalism, and the host of Startup Canada podcast. We have Stephanie. Welcome, Stephanie. Thanks for being here. Stephanie is a 25-year-old with a degree in psychology and a minor in thanatology. She spent a year in law school and after a deep awakening, left to help educate people on consciousness as a TikTok creator to her following of over 400,000. And she's also a member of the New Earth Project. Welcome, Stephanie. And Amy's in the house. Welcome, Amy Bell. She is the founder of the White Lightning Communications, a visual strategy agency focusing on branding with soul. She has combined her 30 years as a graphic designer with her color energy training to create a powerful analysis for her branding clients. And that branding soul method led her to birth the magazine for creative professionals called United Color of Designs, which I'm going to be writing in her next one. And these are all vehicles for her to open a deeper conversation of color and how it impacts our business, art forms, mood, and the journey on this planet. I have Rome in the house. Rome's been here every single time. Welcome, Rome. Rome is native to the Midwest US. He is a yogi and a land and animal caretaker. Some define him as a sage, empathic, intuitive life coach, and he loves to serve and inspire others. He is also an artist and host of the new Studio Rome podcast. And he's also been dropping some really awesome memes for Flow Network. So thank you, Rome. Jaden is new to the table. Welcome, Jaden. So great to have you. Jaden is a brilliant musician, a spiritual student, and transformational facilitator. He facilitates a letting go of the limiting beliefs that keep freedom and passion out of arm's reach. He's worked with hundreds of clients in his programs and retreats. His unique flavor of conscious, elevating music has been listened to by thousands, including yours truly. His uplifting and enlightening songs are opening the hearts of awakening souls all over the planet. And Tim, finally, Tim is my co-founder here at Flow Network. He's also the co-founder of Lightcore, where they work on enlightened leadership with Sharon, who's not able to join us today, where they say the core of business is people, and the core of people is light. Having said all of that, now, beautiful beings here, let's talk about acceptance. Such an important conversation for these times we find ourselves in, which are wildly divisive. I would like to go around the table and just talk like a lightning round real quick about, maybe this isn't going to be super lightning round, but how has the word acceptance changed for you in the last couple of years? Tim, we're going to start with you.
Right. Well, I was just thinking about that, and I thank you for asking that question. I should do a politician's response and talk for a half hour about how grateful I am that you mentioned that.
A lightning round. Let's see how lightning we can do with this, because it's deep, right?
I see acceptance as synonymous with flow. They're one and the same. That would be my quick response.
Okay, Studio Rome.
I would agree with Tim, but I would add on acceptance is probably one of the things you need to pay awareness to if you do want to grow.
Right. Amy?
I'm not ready. I was muted. Okay. Sorry.
Stephanie.
Okay. I would say no, I'm good. I was just kidding. I feel acceptance is about forgiveness of self and just being in the flow, allowing what happens to happen, following breadcrumbs and seeing what's up.
Beauty. Jaden?
Yeah, I would say there's this idea that acceptance is this kind of mental gymnastics where it's I don't accept this thing that's happening, but I'm going to try. And then all of a sudden now I accept it. I see acceptance as not only accepting what is, but also accepting how you feel about what is, whether that's negative or positive. Because once you accept how you feel about something, then you have something to work with. When you're busy denying how you feel about things, you've got nothing to work with. So
beautiful. Stephanie?
I would say all of that agreed. And acceptance is going with the flow, realizing that if you are not able to change a situation, you focus on how you respond. You can control your response and how you act, and that's where your power is.
Wow.
Beautiful. Succinct. Well said. Rick?
I think what's changed for me about acceptance is that I have come to accept that acceptance in the past 5 years. I've come to accept that acceptance is okay, because I'm the sort of person who railed against acceptance if you thought of it as compliance, as accepting your destiny or your limitations, which I reject thoroughly.
So good.
I'm with you, Rick. Got a couple rebels in the group, I see. Yeah.
Yeah, we seem to attract the rebels here at Flow Network. we say to flow or fit in, that is the question. And fitting in is not working anymore. And it sounds like pretty much everybody here said like acceptance is flow. So I love that correlation. Can we riff on that a little bit more? Anybody who wants to go? Let's just flow with it now.
Well, I will again kick off, because I'm willing to actually just lean in. Is acceptance doesn't mean I'm a doormat. Acceptance means someone else feels like I'm a doormat, and they're actually going to let me know that I am a doormat, and I can actually fight back with that and push back, which I call the fear response, or the flow response, and say, well, thank you for that. That's a very interesting insight.
Getting in is not working.
Pardon?
Sorry, I was trying to share it and I forgot to mute myself.
Well, I love what you added there, Sarah. And back to you.
Sorry about that. Who else feels a call to riff?
So my first thought about this was probably one of the most common uses of the word accept, which is a form of acceptance, is the serenity prayer, which you've all heard of and no one knows what it's called. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I've always loved that since the first time I ever saw it on, a dish towel. I think there's a lot of wisdom in it. As long as acceptance goes along with courage, we're going to be okay. To accept the things I cannot change, to accept the responsibilities I have to change things as well, where I can, when I can, with whomever I can. I think that's the beauty of acceptance.
I love that, Rick. And I'd love to add a piece on this.
Build.
Yeah. I think a lot of times we say, if I accept, and I often will use this idea synonymous with validate. I think if we say, well, I accept negativity, for example, or negative behavior, that I'm condoning it. But I don't see that as true. It's not that I condone negative behavior. I just understand it. So, if somebody's, for example, exhibiting negative behavior and I go, well, I accept you totally. I'm not saying I condone your negative behavior. I'm saying I can see why you're behaving negatively. I'm not going to subject myself to it or say yes to it in a way that puts people in harm's way. But I will see your innocence because everyone's traumatized. We're walking around on a planet of traumatized people, and that has effects, and nobody's been taught how to deal with that, which is why I think we're all here and excited about what we're doing. So, acceptance is forgiveness. It's going, you are the way you are. Things are you the way they are, not just because of you. There's a whole system in play here, and it all, plays a part. So to me, acceptance, like you said, Amy, acceptance synonymous with forgiveness, or I would say understanding, which I like.
Yeah, I like that too, Jaden, because when I've come to the point where I said acceptance is forgiveness, but really I think it had to change to acceptance is thank you, because all those people that you need to forgive have actually led you to where you are. So why stop at forgiveness when you can keep on moving into thank you for, pissing me off, or thank you for showing me what a jerk looks like today, or thank you for showing me that negative behavior, because it's now going to change my path a little bit. And I like to just move into thank you and leave it at that.
Yeah. I like that. And I feel that for me, acceptance is kind of understanding that it's not our responsibility nor our ability to change the way that anybody else acts or responds. We only have the power within us to control how we respond. And as Jaden mentioned, it's not that I condone it. It's just that I understand and I see where you're coming from. But it's a matter of kind of accepting the things that you cannot change, lending a helping hand when you can, but knowing the difference between, something that you can change and something that you can just accept. And it just is. It doesn't mean you have to like it. It just is.
Isn't it something that we go through life accepting so many things? We accept the seasons change. We accept the leaves to grow in the spring. We accept the birds to fly. We accept nature and death and life, but when it comes to human beings, we change our exceptions, right? We seem to raise the standard a little bit, and I think a lot of it is personal. So we get to the point where we got to realize that it's just not so much. It's not so much that it's not personal at all. For me, acceptance was when I realized there was a separation between me and I, and that boundary there, maybe see things in a different perspective.
Can you talk about that difference between me and I?
Oh God, I can go on for hours, Jaden. I mean,
we got lots of time.
Yeah, it's been this has been a recent discovery of mine. I've just been focusing on this recently because it's come up with a lot of people that I've been working with. They and myself find ourselves in our ego or in our personalities, and we forget. We forget that we were built this way. We weren't always this way. We were gathered this way by our perception of everyone that was been around us, our parents, our friends, and this and that, and all of that has made us who we are. But there's still a separation of I before all that happened. So when you look at acceptance, I look at acceptance, and I look at it at that perspective, that higher perspective, or that inner perspective. I'm able to take the emotion out of it, I'm taking the thought processes out of it, I'm taking the separation of me away from that. And therefore, I'm able to allow it to happen a lot easier, allow it to flow.
Yeah. It's like I accept that this conditioning is not fundamental to who I am. Yeah, really like that. And I wanted to touch on this idea of like, because we talk a lot often about like accepting yourself, and I think we all have parts of ourselves that we don't want to say yes to or validate or love. And so I would assert that we can even accept those aspects of ourselves that say, you know, what if I was to accept the part of myself that doesn't love myself? Can I hold that part of myself as totally valid, you know, and realize that it's actually has nothing to do with, like Rome said, me at my core, what I actually am is just conditioning that says, well, there's a reason to not love myself. Well, I've just been taught that, you know, by my parents, by society, and I haven't been taught to question that. So, you know, I accept that that's a part of my process.
I think that's
So
an important, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that's an important distinction that you just mentioned, Jaden, too, where we acknowledge, you know, there are these parts of myself say that I've been conditioned to not love myself. And rather than just accepting, hey, I just don't love myself, like you're accepting that that's a part of you that you want to work on. You're accepting that that's something that you can change. You're accepting that that is a part of you as you are, and that's based on your conditioning, and that's gotten you where you are. So you can't judge that part of you. You can't judge the parts of you that got you to where you are right now. It's just really important to accept where you're at right now for what it is, for your level of consciousness at this time, for everything that you've been able to accumulate up until now, and acknowledge and accept that you are able to potentially change those parts of you that you don't love. Like accepting that, hey, you know, I don't love necessarily that I, you know, use this coping mechanism or something. You're acknowledging like that it's something that you've been able to get here. You're accepting that you needed that on the way, but you're being able to understand that you have the ability to change it in the future should you so choose.
Oh my God, Jaden, I'm trying to wrap my head around what you just said. Like I'm standing in front of the mirror going, oh, I can accept that part of me that doesn't like that part of me. What? I just had a little mind blown moment there.
Yes,
You need two mirrors.
that's all about. Yes. That's like the subtlety of witnessing what aspect of you is still trying to push you away, to riff off of what Rome was saying about not being separate. Like, you know, these conversations are mind bending because they go beyond logic and really they go beyond words, right? So if we're trying to like understand this from our level of our head, like good luck. This is about wrapping our heart around it. And this is what Flow Network is all about in terms of bridging the old world, which is so much based on our head and logic and a linear path, to the new world, which is about the love and living from our heart space and feeling, and then being able to shed these old ways of pushing away what we thought was separate. So like you said, Amy, to be able to witness the part of you that's pushing and saying that everything's except for that part. Like, no, that part isn't. And that,
well, you know, Stephanie mentioned, and I think it's true, you know, we have a lot of this features of a programming and conceptual, you know, from everything that we have. So our acceptance is another program that we've learned. You learn to accept differently. You know, you got to realize that accepting isn't quitting, it isn't retreating, it isn't you know, weak, right? I think it's kind of just the opposite. It's just an acknowledgement to where you are and where you are in relation to, you know, the energies and the people in your world. It's so much easier.
Well, I think even if we can begin to accept, like not even fully go into acceptance just yet, but even if you can be, like you said, Sarah, like witnessing how you're that inner voice that's going on, and if you can be aware that it's actually happening in that moment, and then go, okay, I can begin to accept that I feel this way. This is, you know, this got me this far, and then we can move into full on acceptance when you're ready. Because a lot of the, you know, gurus and people who are talking out there are trying to get you to, you know, just accept yourself, love yourself, get in front of the mirror and do, you know, that work and accept others. And it's so easier said than done sometimes, I feel. And at least if you can maybe start the process or begin to think about it, or just be open to thinking about it, like maybe step up this ladder here, because it is a heavy one to climb, like very steep.
Yeah, I think that there are like layers to acceptance almost, where it's how Jaden mentioned, like accepting that there's a part of me that doesn't love me. And it's like, just rather than pushing that away of like ignoring it, pretending it's not there, you give it acknowledgement. You're like, okay, I hear you. It's not that I love it. And obviously, say I want to be a more loving person. It's like Rome wasn't built in a day, Rome. You can't just like jump, like, you can't just jump over there. It's like kind of just stages of acknowledgement, stages of acceptance that you are where you are right now because of what you've been through and everything. You're able to kind of progress. Everything can be a work in progress, and I think that's an important notion, that acceptance doesn't mean oh, I'm perfect. Like, acceptance just means I accept me for who I am in this moment, and I'm going to make changes as I see fit to become the best person I can be according to what that feels like for me.
Yeah. I really like that. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who are negatively talking to themselves, looking around and being envious of others or dissatisfied in other ways. And so the type of acceptance we're talking about here that says, hey, we're all works in progress. We can take small steps and get out of this mess. But embracing acceptance rather than, oh, I have to be someone entirely different. I will never be able to be that person. Acceptance of ourselves and our limitations is such an important first step.
I wanted to introduce because I spent so much time applying and teaching in business, the concepts around acceptance and allow and all those types of things relative to performance results. So it's an interesting thing with performance results in business in particular, because there's so much time spent in strategy and goal setting. And so let's make sure that we hit 20,000 or 200,000, 2 million, whatever it is this month. And then we actually, the month tick, 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 tick. There is, in my experience, there is limited to no acceptance as we're getting closer to the deadline. And as soon as that deadline hits, bang, we were supposed to hit 2 million this month. What tends to happen, that I've experienced and seen, is that everyone judges all the reasons why we didn't and has a real big challenge accepting that maybe there's another layer that we need to look at relative to a target. And the target can be as simple as making a meeting, or making a nice cake that's not dry, or being able to actually hit it out of the park relative to an outreach. And so the concept of acceptance is exceedingly complex, as you're saying, Amy, we're all saying, is that I have my heart set, and even the notion of visualization, and then what I've read around manifestation, your thoughts create reality and those types of things. And they, all right, so that's great. The acceptance where it really comes into play is when you don't hit your target that you actually establish and say, okay, but most, in my experience, I say 95% of the time, the people that I work with don't even think about reflecting on anything other than what worked. If it didn't work, try harder, push harder, come back at it, and just really give her even more. So it is an interesting concept, because in introducing flow relative to acceptance and using it, say, in a business context, or even in a sports, or you're climbing in a mountain and it's a mountain range, and learning to flow and accept that actually maybe the water's coming down this ridge or whatever. I need to actually really pay attention to my inner world to accept what I'm being presented with, because if I don't, it could kill me. Or in a business, in a lot of cases, people think they'd rather die than not hit their targets. So it's a really wide topic. I am just introducing that the fact is it's really wide topic, especially when I introduce the notion of money into a frame of reference that typically will actually talk about these types of things in regard to our internal response.
Tim, what happens?
I'd love to riff with anybody on that.
Tim, what happens if I don't hit my quota this month and my boss says, this is unacceptable?
Yes, Rick.
Well, that's why I wanted to introduce it. The point is, the point is the opportunity is presented all the time for us. But the way we learned in school, okay, I only hit 53 at the end of the year in math. So you can either, oh man, I'm not going to accept that. I'm going to go to summer school, and I'm going to actually teach myself to do phenomenal stuff, even though I hate math, or I hate music, or I hate art, or whatever. And in our society, all we've experienced our whole lives is set a goal Hit it.
Is Tim freezing, or is that my computer?
That's
Tim.
great, Tim.
Tim
Good
freezing.
words.
Good words. Okay, Tim's
Yeah,
frozen.
It froze.
I like how he ended off there, like just frozen.
I like that. Let's leave him like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna riff Tim off.
That's
of
another
you.
quote from Tim off
That's
the
another.
show.
Yes, because I'm actually writing about this right now for Amy's magazine. When I was kind of going through my transformation of shedding my old self and the old ways, what I really realized was that the ways we used to measure success in the old world are almost irrelevant to how we measure success in the new world. And that for me speaks to the big transformation that businesses that are maybe possibly stuck in the old ways and have no idea what we're even talking about here. And a part of bringing these conversations to the table is to bring these maybe more esoteric, spiritual, out there, like yogic, yoga is union, to become one with yourself. Try to have that with a business in the big corporations. Like, this isn't something that was important. And these times, though, these conversations in board meetings need to happen, in my opinion.
I think they need to happen, but there's still people with a foot in this other world and a foot in this spiritual world. And, if I said to my boss, if I work for someone and I was trying to reach a target and I said, I'm just going to go with the flow and accept the fact that I didn't make it this month. And like, you're going to end up on your ass and out with no job if that happens, multiple times in a row. So Tim, I'm glad you're back on, because we've been talking about you while you're gone. And we're just wondering, like, I think this is your expertise of helping businesses in that sort of lean into this flowy kind of way of being, so that you can, not stress the hell out of everyone who's working and be accepting of what they're bringing in and allowing it to flow into business money wise. I think when you add money into the conversation, it just becomes like acceptance is not allowed in the equation anymore.
Well, I'm glad I'm in. On my screen, I got a half weird thing in front of me. I'm on Wi-Fi because we're in a new house. So
on your screen, it looks like your thumb is half on the camera, Tim. There we go.
Okay. I was thinking, I thought it was an elf. Yes, Tim's wandering around.
We'll be like, yeah, that's how it works, Tim.
Yes, Tim, that's just a weird thing on your screen there. It's your thumb.
So I will actually take this opportunity, not knowing how long I'm going to actually have on this. The idea with acceptance is that your strategy is probably incorrect. Your numerics, your projections, your underlying beliefs and interpretations of your reality and your market are incorrect. And that actually requires that the leadership starts to self-reflect and start to realize that they're responsible ultimately for setting those goals and not just actually going and delegating them to their team. So to be able to go and shift a culture, especially this is what we've got going on. We got this thing going on in Canada. We got this going on everywhere, because it's one thing to actually talk about it relative to your own response to goal setting or the world or whatever it is. But being able to actually do it with one other person, which makes a team, which makes a business, as opposed to a solopreneur, but a business, then you have to actually have conversations, not just with yourself about this, but you have to have a conversation with the other person as to, are you actually feeling that we are aligned? And often the answer is no, we're not. We're not even close to being aligned. And in our society, we have to actually move from subjective. My world is 100% subjective and your world is 100% subjective. So we now have to actually align each other to a world where it's impossible to absolutely align in an absolute way, and then start to learn how to dance with that. So it's a massive, massive issue for society, for people, teams, marriages, couples, everybody that moves beyond the individual. I could go for days on this front. So please throw something in. Tim, that's interesting.
Our time's very limited.
Yes, and we have literally Tim and I have turned the camera on for almost all of our conversations in the last 2.5 years, talking about this exact topic and seeing the world changing, like this was before COVID hit. We were like, we know that there's going to be a massive something coming. We didn't think it was going to be a pandemic, but things were going to be disruptive and changed in ways that were going to be very disruptive.
Right. We've been building a world that was unsustainable in every sense of the meaning of that word.
Yeah. Yes.
And all of the structure that's been in place is to objectify this notion of acceptance. And you actually then you defer to whoever's sitting on the top of the pyramid to say, okay, this is acceptable, this is not. And we've taken away personal power. We've taken away team power.
Oh no, Tim.
We just took away your personal power, Tim.
Just took away. No, oh, you're back. Oh, no, it's your hand.
No, he's not. It's his hand.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
They don't have Wi-Fi yet at the new Flow Country Studios. Does anybody want to riff off of that?
I think there's a notion that says, let me see if I can articulate it, that I need to be stressed in order to be effective. This is a collective belief system that says I need stress for motivation. And if you just look at the reality of it, like how effective am I when I'm stressed versus when I'm at peace? I think we could all agree that if you're trying to find your keys and you're really stressed about it, it's impossible. But if you just take a moment and you relax and you go, okay, it's all going to be okay, even if I don't find them, then all of a sudden you realize they're in your pocket. It's like you just start to see things clearly and you go, oh, there's a lump in my pocket. Oh, there my keys are. So, we collectively believe that stress equals motivation or more productivity. And actually, I think businesses run like that as well. That's why, having someone who has a little bit of a clue about that in a business can be very helpful, because that energy can spread and people realize, oh, the more peaceful we are, actually the more effective we are, the more money we make, the better clients we attract, because we're getting reflections of our inner state. And that's a beautiful thing to witness in a business.
It's fascinating that you say it like that too, because I feel like a lot of people just aren't ever even taught the option of functioning in a peaceful modality. For me personally, I've understood, like, I used to think that I needed to operate under that stressful environment in order to do my best work. Like, I would wait to the last minute to do papers because it was that crunch of, moving it forward and everything. Whereas I instead of like taking the time, I didn't have the time to kind of sit back and do it, because our society is so structured, I guess, on the go, like move now, like do the most that you can now. Like, it's not structured so much on the, like, almost the quality rather than the quantity. You know what I mean? It's like it's the numbers game for a lot of these businesses, where it's so ingrained in our society that we kind of need to reevaluate. As we mentioned, we've been structuring society in an unsustainable way, and now we're seeing that it's so much better the other way. Now people are having a chance to take a step back and be like, oh wait, I'm doing so much more work, I'm doing so much better with a clear head. I'm being able to take that step back and find my keys, as opposed to frantically worrying about it because I'm late to my meeting or something, So if we can collectively take that step back and shift into that era of peace and acceptance, and again, it's not just like, oh, you're late because you just don't care, whatever, like, that's cool. It's more of like okay, like, things happen, like understanding that everything's an ebb and flow, everything's a moving piece, and just being mad or stressing about one thing isn't going to make it better.
So I'm obviously the least introspective person on this panel, and that's a cool thing. So I'm going to shift this from your world to my world. And my world is one where I'm much more involved in the outside world than I am in my inner world. And hey, it works for me. So when I first heard about that this was going to be the topic this week, I thought about acceptance. And the first thing I thought of was acceptance of our potential. And I think that we are all born as unique beings with unlimited potential. And I think so few of us actually reach that. So when I think of acceptance, and I think of the positive aspects of acceptance, what I'm thinking of is our acceptance as these remarkable creatures that are capable of doing just about anything. and that we accept that as our birthright, as our right, as our destiny, and that we take control as a result of our own destinies and say, I can be whatever I want. I don't have to be the accountant that, the bricklayer that my mother wanted me to be. I don't have to go to the school that my father wanted me to go to. I don't have to do what all my friends are doing. I can carve my own path. And, most of us end up there somewhere along the way where we discover that, hey, what I'm doing, following the crowd, isn't working for me anymore. But I think the sooner you realize it, and Stephanie's a great example of that, as someone who dropped out of law school. Not that I'm telling anyone who went in law school now to drop out, but think about it. The idea of accepting our destiny and accepting nothing less than our full potential is what I love about acceptance.
Nice, Rick. I'd love to use that, and I'll send it to you, Amy, after as a mirror for people, because I think a lot of times we believe that if I accept my potential and my greatness, that's somehow arrogant or something like that. But I see it as the opposite, is that when I don't accept my potential, that, I can't be all that I can be because that's for other people to do. That's actually the arrogant thing, because it puts me as this thing that's different than everyone else in the sense that, I'm not capable of that when I actually am. That's denial. That's arrogance. So I love that kind of, just different way of seeing that. Thank you for that, Rick. Amy.
Okay. I don't know who this is for. Probably a combination of Tim and Rick, but I need to understand this. So I have a new company. It's growing, and I have a salesperson that I've hired. And I have bills that need to be paid to run this company. And then I have to look at the salesperson that I've hired and how do I keep in this new world way of business by going with the flow and allowing things to happen. And it's okay, we'll just move with it. But I have stuff I got to pay, and I don't know what a new world business looks like from the back end.
I think that's for you, Tim.
I can't hear. I can't hear
Tim.
you.
I need to hear you, Tim.
You're on mute.
I would love to touch on it though, if no one else is.
Okay.
Go for it, Jaden.
If Tim's audio can't come through, let's get Jaden in on it.
Yeah, Tim, we can't hear you.
Tim
for
missed.
whatever reason.
Yeah.
Okay, Jaden, you go while Tim's figuring it out.
Yeah, this is where I would go with it, is like, in my mind, because we all go around all day believing everything we think, and I have the thought that says I need to whatever it may be, pay the bills, make sure everyone's paid, get all these things done. That thought is just a thought in the now that I'm believing that creates stress.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm stressed, I'm less effective, and I'm then coping with that stress by trying to push, right? So where I would go is, what's the worst possible scenario you could imagine in your mind if those things didn't happen? And once you can accept, if that happens, that's actually okay, and that might actually be the best possible scenario for things to not work out. If things don't work out, that's how it's supposed to be. That's how it's working out. We just don't see the bigger picture that goes, oh, that needs to not work out in order for me to be led in this direction. So I'm actually not the one in control of making it work out. I just do my best. I follow my passion to the best that I can. I be in integrity to the best that I can. And if it works out or not, that's okay. Oh, now I realize there's no stress in the now. So now I'm just doing my best in the moment. So it's not this future that I have to control because I can't. There's no possible way. There's way too many other variables. So
it's really interesting, Jaden, that you say that, because my background, for most of my career, I've been a business journalist, basically specializing in entrepreneurship and startups. And so I've interviewed a zillion entrepreneurs. Most of them are the hugely successful ones that you interview once they're successful, as well as a lot of people who aren't successful yet and may never be. And the thing that I found, so my bias for entrepreneurship is that entrepreneurs are people who do things that other people say are impossible. So they set out to do something difficult. And the fact that it's difficult is in fact the filter that keeps other people from competing with them. So if they can break through that and make it work, then presumably they get a big advantage, a big payday, if you will. But many of them don't make it. So one of the questions I've always asked entrepreneurs, after we've talked about all the history that they've gone through and the challenges they've faced, I say, if you had to do it again, would you do it again? And I'm constantly surprised how many of them say no, which is the exact opposite of what you expect successful people to say after they've gone through their crucible and emerged successful and triumphant in the end. So based on what you just said, maybe they were better off not to do it at all and find and look for that smoother path. But on the other hand, then we would have missed out on a lot of very important products, services, innovations, and companies that have created a lot of benefit for people. So it's a really interesting question.
And they would have lost out on all the lessons they learned from that experience. So my notion would be, what if failing was the best possible scenario? If that happens, and it could,
and they don't get interviewed.
Failure can only be the best possible scenario if that's what happens. He goes, that's exactly what I needed to happen. The only thing that can make me stressed or make it wrong is my own belief that shouldn't have happened. Without that thought, I'm just free, successfully failing over and over. And I wrote down a quote, and Rome, I know you got something to say, but I wrote down a quote as you were talking. Somebody mentioned success, and I had this thought that says, success is what is. If I have any other definition of success, I'm automatically a failure. I'm putting that out to the universe, and I'll just keep experiencing my own belief in real time. So when I say success is what is, well, then, there's no failure.
Well, success in a lot of times is a comparison of others or their accolades. And what Amy's talking about, she has a certain bar that she needs to meet to be successful, just to at least, make a nut and keep the things going. But for other people, success isn't, there's so many different levels. I mean, I'll share a personal experience for me. I was chin deep as a project manager in a Las Vegas market, working on the strip, meetings every day, 3-4 phone calls a minute, just running mad crazy, making great money, being the top of the build. Had a lot of people below us. Great business. But I had changed my perspective, especially after my spiritual awakening, that it was fun. It was great. It got me to where I am now, but I wouldn't do it again. If knowing what I know now, I'd stay in the peaceful path that I am now, more grounded, more earthbound, more, grateful. So I think if people had a choice, if they didn't have to work, if they didn't have to make a mortgage and a rent and a car payment, I think they would probably choose to do less.
I have like an interesting insight on that as well, where it's so normalized for us to be stressed about, oh, we have to pay this bill. Oh, of course that's logical. But it's almost that like the law of detachment. Like when you're able to remove yourself from the outcome of like, oh, I need this to work, that's when it works because it flows. So for like a personal, I know it sounds like counterintuitive, but when like a personal example is when I left law school, when I left corporate America, and I, started posting videos on TikTok about consciousness and everything like that. I wanted to kind of help people. I wanted to read tarot and all of this. And I went into it with the detachment of, if this doesn't work, I'll figure it out. And then because of that insight that I had on that, I think that's why it worked. Now I have like almost 500,000 followers that I'm able to reach with this message of kind of these counterintuitive things. They seem counterintuitive, but if you look into it and you kind of try it, you'll be like, oh, wow, that works. So it's that universal law of like detachment, being able to take that step back from the outcome that allows it to flow.
Yes, I love that. Flow. And what a lot of us are so touching on right now is, and we have this model that we introduced at the beginning of this series of the Leaders Live, showing like the 5 levels of flow. And you can't really make it linear or anything like that. But along our journey of failing, and Tim, I'm sure, was trying to say, yes, fail forward fast. That's the goal, is because we can't know what we don't know until we know. And whatever experience we have is meant to be there so we can accept it, love it, learn something about ourselves. And ultimately our goal for this new earth energy, this level of flow where life doesn't have to be stressful and hard, and things are just magnetically coming to us, like you said, Stephanie, attracting almost 500,000 followers, is when we align ourselves to our true nature, which is abundance, which is peace, which is all of the things that most of us are looking for. And we just accept that and align ourselves. It's our resonance that sells. We're either dissonant and in separation, or we are resonant and whole. And that's the big mental change that needs to happen for any relationship, whether we're talking business or family. In order for one person flowing on their own, that's easy. When you get into creating a business like you're talking about, Amy, and like what we're doing here at Flow Network, flowing in a community is a whole other thing. And the only way to do it is to have communicate and talk about these things and get triggered by someone's comment or not. And then learn something more about ourselves. And I bring up Bruce Lipton a lot because I was really inspired by his work. He has a book, Spontaneous Evolution. And he talks about this jump point in our evolution is coming together and flowing in community. And it isn't easy. Like, these conversations, a lot of time would go off into these very esoteric or non-tangible concepts. And I love, Rick, like that you're here representing, and saying, like, I'm very much in the outer world. And Amy, that your example of, like, right now I'm trying to grow a business and I have a sales team and I got to pay my bills. And like, we need to have all of these conversations. Tim, it sounds like we can hear you. Are you ready to riff off of what Amy's question was?
So you're in the basement.
Yes, I've gone and I'm hugging the router. Yes, I've got a new relationship that I'm actually surrendering to and accepting and allowing.
Does it hug back?
Yes, it does. It's interesting. So I'm gonna spit out what it is because I've been hearing everybody talk, so I haven't been able to actually connect. So there's interesting. I believe this is a point in time where the mechanics of merging the external mechanics around strategy, structure, cash flow, projection, all that kind of stuff. We're bridging those with the inner world. That's what the next generation, and I think the next generation is the millennials, the Zers behind them. They are mastering this, and being able to actually look at a financial forecast. And there are stages that we help people through, but it is unfortunate with entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are the first class to actually move through barriers such as denial, betrayal, abandonment, and then crisis. And until you move to crisis, most of us are not willing to actually go and realize that the crisis is not out there. It's in how I've identified with myself. I'm having an identity crisis. So if I actually start to move down that path of identity crisis, I start to realize any salesperson that I actually hire, they've got the same attractors as me. So they have the same patterns as I have. They have the same wins tendency and same loss tendency. If in fact you get the wrong person, you actually look inside to be able to go and heal what's going on with you relative to your attractors. Not so much looking at changing the other person, because the only person we can change is us. And so being able to loop tighter and tighter and tighter is a whole mechanics that we call flow. This is something we've been doing for a very long time. And where the rubber hits the road is when you have to actually hit a mark and you got 3 days or 2 days and you have a whole organization with you, and being able to surrender has to happen at such a deep level. And I've seen it happen a ton. I've seen it happen a ton. It is entirely doable, and you can shift the whole organization and you can shift the whole supply chain. But it's not something you read about in the Globe and Mail.
Tim, if you had a magic wand and you were able to go into every business in the world and change one thing about the way it's structured, the way it operates, what would you want to change?
Money.
So you're asking me?
Tim, yes.
Well, I've shared this with you in other discussions. Is the good news is we know where the problem is.
No. What would you change? One sentence.
One sentence is it's self-awareness. It's entirely self-aware. We create our reality. It's 100% subjective. Our version of reality, no one else but us shares it to the depth and breadth that we do. As soon as we can actually start to help people understand that, then we can start to have people actually owning their decisions, their opportunities to be able to go and shift, and the opportunities to be able to go and expand into themselves in an incremental way. But it changes absolutely every aspect of society, education, business, every industry, everything. And it has to start. And so my observation is it's going to start with individuals and solopreneurs, and it's going to start in the creative. So if you're a starving artist, you're going to find ways to be able to go and pay bills. You're going to find ways that you never knew until you were in a crisis. And then you're actually really rolling around in the crap and you're thinking, oh my gosh, why didn't I think about this earlier?
Sarah, Rebecca had a question at 12:59. It was an interesting question in the chat.
Okay, what's that?
It was, when offended by others' words or actions, how do you remain in a positive flow? I think that's a pretty interesting question.
Oh, there it is. Before we get to that, I just love to riff off what Tim says, because that is and it sort of feeds into that actually. So Tim constantly goes to, so a business comes to you, we have a problem. How do we fix it? And he says, well, the good news is we know where the problem is. It starts with you. And it reminds me of this woman that I love. Her name is Dr. Shafali. She works with couples and family and parenting, conscious parenting and that kind of thing. Because conscious parenting, conscious owning of business, they're the same thing. And she says, I wish that I could just walk into my office and wear a shirt that says the problem starts with you.
Yeah.
But it's a little too in your face, because a lot of times we don't want to look at our stuff. We don't want to say, no, the problem's out there. The problem's this side. The problem's that opinion. The problem's this or that. And the shift that we're talking about with this jump point of evolution is everything starts inside of me. We are all one. Rick, you are me. Stephanie, you are me. Rome, you are me. I am you. That's the conversation that intellectually we can say, yeah, we're all one love. But actually embodying that is a whole other thing. And so for me, this tying it back to this conversation of acceptance is, okay, I have to accept that this words or action is offending me. So remaining in a positive flow is sometimes it's not a positive thing. Like we say, sometimes we have to accept that it doesn't feel positive. And then we have the self-awareness, the self-reflecting. That's, if Tim was to wave the wand, as you said, Rick, and his answer is self-awareness.
Yeah.
That is ultimately what this new world is about. And for me is why I'm passionate about hosting conversations like this, to be able to bring diversity to the table and say, all right, let's look at what's going on with me.
I have a cousin who is a chief economist who's worked with countries all over the world. And he's moving into retirement, but it was about 5 years ago I talked to him, and his biggest challenge at the time, and he was very upset by it, was he identified the problem we have with the world right now is what he calls the death of truth. And when we didn't have social media platforms, there was one truth, or maybe two, and it was broadcast media. And it was a function of the education system, the top down, the whole structure worked really, really well, until we started allowing everybody to start sharing all kinds of stuff with each other and started to realize, oh my God, there's 8 billion truths. Well, that's a problem. And that was a real big problem for him. Now, I didn't have the time or the courage to lean into that conversation with him, because he was so distraught, because he was looking what was going on in the Middle East as well as what was going on in Asia. And he just couldn't hear anything I had to say, and probably wouldn't be interested in what I had to say.
Let's get him next week.
Yeah. But it is an interesting thing, because we have all understood there's a right answer and there's a wrong answer. And that's what we've been educated on. We've also understood that there's a truth, there's a rational, provable, 100% objectively verifiable truth. And then there's all these falsehoods. And the problem is that may or may not be relevant in the past, but it's sure as hell not relevant now. Everyone has their own perspective on absolutely everything that's going on. That creates a bit of a challenge if we're actually looking for short answers.
Well, I think it speaks to the values that everybody has, that you grew up with, and that society is inculcating in people. I think we're learning a lot about values as a society in the turmoil that we're going through now, because you're right, it was accepted that there was only a few types of values, and it was a pretty short and stifling list. So I think we're learning new values and embracing new values, and that evolution has to continue.
I think it's interesting that I think it was either Tim or Sarah that had mentioned it earlier, where it's like, oh, I think it was Tim, where you said, I have my whole subjective reality, somebody else has their whole subjective reality, and then coming together, making a team. It's like both of them, it's not exclusively one way or the other. It's a matter of kind of coming to that mutual agreement and understanding, where like I find it helpful to kind of discuss things with people. I mean, if even only to hear it for myself is like, okay, this is why it kind of bothered me. This is what I can do to accept and let go. In the sense of I can't control how other people act, but I think it's interesting because I like when people kind of prompt that within me, for me to question it within myself, where I'm like, oh, okay, you know, I try to leave every situation, every encounter with like, what can I take from this? Like, what can I learn from this? What can I learn here? Is there anything that I want to improve on from this as well? You know, I take everything as kind of like a potential for a learning experience. And I think that kind of approaching things is that, where, you know, the saying forgive not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace, where it's like, I understand that might be their truth, as Rome had said in the comments, might be their truth, but like, I don't have to embody that, you know? So there's like, it's like a little dance, like a catch-22 of kind of understanding somebody else's perspective, accepting that that's maybe their truth, and then seeing what you can do about it, if even to walk away.
Yeah. I love that, Stephanie. And Jaden, you were talking on, I mean, we were all talking about the same thing. Mm-hmm. If in fact we have trust, Stephanie, you and I have trust, I can go sideways on something, blow out because I'm actually been triggered, and you actually keep me safe. So much so because we've created a bond and we've created this trust that I actually trust you to actually trust yourself enough to call me at where it is I'm stuck. And I actually respond to that very favorably at the unconscious level, saying, hey, you know, there's love. Well, let's call it love. So you actually keep me in your bandwidth so that I can actually, all right, sorry about that. I didn't really mean to call you a big moose, but you know what? We love each other enough that, you get to call me a horse's ass somewhere down the line, or, you know, whatever it is. But the thing is it's a whole new way of actually building team relationships, an organization, even a network, like, you know, let's call it flow network of interdependent people. That's our vision. That's what we're doing right this second.
Yes, it is, Tim. And we have had such a beautiful dance bridging intergenerations and gender, because there was a bunch of triggering moments, let's say.
Oh,
there might have even been calling names of arrogance, as Jillian mentioned earlier. Stuff like that. And, you know, it's being willing to say, put it all out and just say, okay, love. Love is our unifying energy. And I'm going to trust myself enough to love and watch the power of what that actually does and how that actually transforms. And Tim, we had an altercation with someone, let's call it a neighbor, who just lost it. Something happened and he was yelling and screaming and calling names. And Tim and I just went over there and just beamed love. And slowly, it turned from this yelling to, let's have a hug. And we hugged. He said, I haven't had a hug in like 5 years.
Since my mom died.
Since my mom died.
And he was over at our place last night. He came over. He says, is there anything I can do? I'm sorry about, I'm sorry. So he's become the most giving, connected person. He wants to help us with this, with that, because no one's ever treated him that way. And it was a very small thing for us, very big thing for him.
And very transformational. And that is the power of love. And this is the time that we're in where there is so much transformation happening, to, like you were saying, Rick, in terms of like owning our potential, is to understand that superpower of love and the potential of the quick transformation that we can create as a interdependent community in our world, and hold on to that, especially when like things are going crazy, which we're seeing and will escalate in the world out there.
Can I just throw in, Sarah, I really love what you just said, because when I was thinking about it, I was thinking about it from my own selfish position and your own selfish position, you know, you or my singular destiny. And yet maybe the other thing to accept is that we have a higher destiny together based on love or hugs or respect or whatever.
Yes.
So I've grown.
We also, back to Amy's question that started this whole thing. We all have the potential to be able to go and heal as a function of dealing with everybody as a mere metaphor of us. And I think, Jaden, you everybody's speaking to this in some ways. If you see someone acting out because they're freaked out, send them love. So give them a hug. Either give them a hug, metaphysically, or actually, literally go over there and give them a hug, or talk to them, or connect them in the eyes. As a species, we have massive potential that we have not tapped because we have not been put in a crisis situation where we have no choice but to actually be able to go and heal this. That's where we are now, from my perspective. We're in a crisis, and it's gonna.
But our way of healing is to send in the army.
Well, and that actually is just going to escalate, so we go to a higher or deeper level of trust.
I know it's all wrong. Yeah.
I mean, it's all good. Like I look at it and go, perfect. This is working out exactly well. There's another step I wouldn't have had needed or seen needed, but obviously people need to go to that next step. Let's go there.
Vicky, I love Rick's. Vicky said, Rick, you are far more interpretive than you are giving yourself credit.
Yes.
Yeah. When Rick said that, I'm not interpretive, I said, can you absolutely know that that's true?
Yeah.
That's Jaden's self-inquiry work that he does, and that's Byron Katie as well. It's constantly like examining our beliefs and our stories, and accepting like, oh, this is a story that I have. Is that absolutely true? Yeah. And accepting that it might be wrong, like over and over and over and over and over again. I
was just going to say the idea that, once we really get connected to this idea that there's nothing separate, like everything is a projection of my own mind. It's like everything's interpretive.
Yeah.
And everything's internal.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
And you can change your internal in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And everything can be a lesson if you choose to see it that way.
Yep.
Wow.
Except for that one thing.
Except for that guy.
That guy, exactly.
Amy, did we answer your question?
Yeah, Amy.
Oh my God. Well, thank you all so much for allowing this to be my therapy session. That was really awesome. I think what I'm getting from it is that I have said all of these things to people that I work with, all of them. Your success, you are what you are because it is right now happening. And, I've said all this stuff. So what I'm beginning to understand is that it's the embodiment part of it, because maybe I'm just giving lip service to all of this stuff and I'm not really, just believing it, and then trusting my abilities. And if it isn't to be so, then it's not to be so. And I usually do this sort of reflection after the fact. And I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't, I needed to break up with my husband, so all this, and this could happen. And I needed to do this, so this and this could happen. But it's like after the fact, it's in hindsight that I'm seeing that. So when I'm sitting in this moment of just being petrified and crisis strikes, then the money comes in actually, because it just sort of shows up when I need it to show up. What I would like to have happen is that something shows before it's in a crisis situation. And I think that's where maybe I actually have to have like a whole offline 8-day conversation with Tim or all of you. Like maybe we'll just have Amy therapy for 8 days. Or
I will add,
I would watch that show.
I want to just take the second to actually identify. It's been my experience that people have to actually move through stages and then crisis, and then they shift. But that starts to actually wear thin after a while when a person realizes they're creating their own crisis all the time.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
And you start to actually move past it when you actually feel abandoned. Then actually, you go back higher, denial, then actually, or betrayal and denial. And then it's just a wink of an eye. You actually can shift like literally in a heartbeat, literally.
Well,
there's a skill set to be able to learn that.
I think the space between panic and realization that there's no need to really panic is getting closer for me. I do feel that is happening. It's just that little tiny space of losing my shit, and it is, it's still there, but it's getting smaller. So
Oh my gosh, she was
Oh,
doing
no.
so well too.
Don't panic.
Oh,
Right.
That's right.
that was gone.
you're back. You muted for a second. Can you repeat that? Oh no.
Am I still muted? No.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good.
I have no idea what I just said. I don't know. It was
Oh,
probably very brilliant, and I have no idea what it is now. So I just thank you so much, everybody, for allowing me to barf that out.
Oh,
I
Amy.
don't know if you saw what Vicky just said. In the
Vicky
comments.
said this is all of our therapy, and that really is that. Thank you so much for that comment, Vicky, and thank you so much, just Amy, for just being vulnerable. This is the new world. This is the new leadership. We are literally being what flow in the new world is all about, and we are constantly learning, and to be able to share, like, this is exactly the intention behind this. So thank you. And I've let this go on a lot longer because the conversation is just so juicy, and I could just keep talking with all of you for a lot longer. But Vicky reminded me, we have this flow content creation challenge we've been doing, where we've been extending out to our community that we want to hear from them. Like, not just the leaders that we bring to this table, but anybody. We want to hear your voice. We want to hear from you. So the flow content creation video challenge is our community's opportunity to join in on these topics. And for the month of January, which had just passed, we said we were going to give a mug giveaway. So in here, I have all the names of everybody who's participated, and I'm going to do the draw just right this second before we wrap up. Tim, do you want to do it?
Yeah, let me do it.
Put your hand in there. And let's see who will win this beautiful UBU mug with the flow documenting evolution on the back. Anthea Mumbai.
Yes.
Woo!
Woo!
There we go. So Anthea will get her mug. Thank you for sitting through that, everyone. Thank you for your participation. Thank you to all the leaders that are here. Let's go around the table one more time, where if there's final words you want to say, and share with us what you've got going on in your community, and how, I mean, you don't have to say like, this is my link, because you can put it in the comments and that'll save us time. But let's start with you, Rome, and we'll go around the table. Final words.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Sarah, for this space and having us all together. This is wonderful. I think what you'll tend to realize, guys, is over the weeks that we talk about things, is it comes a lot to depend on your perspective, where your head is at in all these things. And as you go through your growth, your perspective is going to change. I see a lot of what we're talking about is imagine to be where you're coming from, where you see it at. Amy sees things different than Rick does, and we have different perspectives. So acceptance is just one of those perspectives. Other than that, my personal thing, StudioRome.space, we're designing, creating, and inspiring over there. There's art, there's podcasts, there's coaching courses, and I would be remiss if I didn't say happy anniversary to my wife tomorrow. Thank you, honey. I love you.
Beautiful. Happy anniversary. And also, Rome, shout out again. Thank you for all the graphics you're doing for Flow.
You're welcome.
You muted, Sarah.
Oh, well, I was throwing it over to you, Jaden. Share with us your final thoughts.
All right. Well, I just want to say huge thank you to everyone here, everyone tuning in. This has been a really great conversation and really uplifting. So I'm just grateful to be here and to be able to connect with you guys. If you're interested in connecting with me and what I'm up to, Facebook, Instagram, just add me, connect. I do courses and things and music and all kinds of stuff. So I'd love to connect with anyone who resonates with that. And I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Jaden. I want to just encourage people to check out. I am a big fan of Jaden's music. His lyrics are amazing. And if I'm feeling low, I will put your music on and
thank you.
Uplift me. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Stephanie?
First, Jaden, drop that link for your music. I want to check it out.
All right.
Definitely. Thank you. And thank you all for allowing me to share this space and have this discussion with you guys. I'm really excited to learn from everybody as well as kind of give an insight from what I've experienced as well. I do talk about topics like this on my TikTok channel, and I'll drop the link in the comments. It's Stephanie Amber 07. And I am working on some conscious collaborations with other social media creators as well. We work with the New Earth Project. I am going to be on Studio Rome's podcast, Up and Coming. So yeah, thanks again, guys.
Right, I gotta unmute myself. Rick, any final thoughts?
My final thought is that I am still growing. So thank you for recognizing that. Yesterday, I realized that I've been under a lot of stress lately, and I wasn't sure why. Well, actually, when I realized it, I was sure why. And I've been deeply affected by the protests that are currently going on and spreading out from Canada around the world. So yesterday, I started a new blog that's devoted to that crisis. And I've done 7 posts in 24 hours. And I've seen this wonderful shift where I go from just whining about how awful everybody is to imagining how we can get things better again. So my most recent blog post from 9 o'clock this morning was just how when this is over, we need to sit down and have some dialogues that we have never had before and go deeper with people that we were formerly yelling at across the police lines. And I think that fits into what we've been talking about today. And it's an exciting journey for me to explore this as well. So if you want to visit the blog, there are 7 blog posts there already. It's at www.clownvoy.com. Now that I'm more enlightened, I'm going to have to change the name.
Perfect. And you can drop that in the comments too. Amy, let's go with you. Any final thoughts and what you want to share?
So many final thoughts.
Go.
Okay, I want to say thank you to all of you because this was, eye-opening and mind-blowing and all that stuff. And I just love hearing different perspectives because I do fully believe that you are all my mirrors, that everyone is a mirror to me. So thank you for just holding that up in front of my face so that I can see it with clarity. Okay, what else was I going to say? As Sarah mentioned earlier, the magazine that I have is called United Colors of Design. And we are here to teach creative professionals how to thrive as entrepreneurs. And part of that is a conversation around color and seeing different areas of expertise through the lens of color and what that means. So this is an open invitation for all artists out there who have worked with gold, specifically golds like in your work, to submit for this issue because we do have a free featured artist gallery in the back. And my hope is that we're adding to the gold conversation by your words and by your artwork. And whatever that might be. So if it's artist, if it's painter, if it's sculptor, if it's tattoos, if it's interior design, if it's hair, makeup, whatever that might be, allowing that color to be our bond because we all share that at least in common. And if you are interested in participating as far as an article, a featured article, I am really interested in hearing other people's opinions about the art world and color and how you see things. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Sorry, Amy, did you say that you're looking for stuff all related to gold, like gold the color? Or
it's a conversation of your expertise through the positive and negative aspects of the gold color in this particular issue. The next issue will be yellow, and then we
okay.
Yeah, each issue is a different color.
Cool. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
And my gold story, I'm so excited to share.
Sarah is starting with our conversation that happened in gold years ago and is coming back around to the gold to start a new conversation, which is amazing.
Yeah, and it was so touched on. I've just finished writing it, and it touched on so many things that we talked about today. So
nice.
So good. Tim, final thoughts? And you're on mute. Unmute yourself, please, sir.
I really appreciate everybody on this this call on so many ways, and also in the fact that I'm struggling with the internet given we're in the new location. So I do apologize for that in and out, but it seems also to me that it was awesome because I could bang on about this forever, and because I was cut out, it allowed everybody else to share their brilliance, which I really, really enjoyed. So I'm contemplating what's coming down the pipe as I'm getting my act together, because we're going through a big transition, my wife and I, right this second, in a lot of ways due to health and just changing where we live and all kinds of things. So we're more proactive, move forward. And today is our 29th anniversary. Rome, that's crazy. Yours is like tomorrow. Sharon and I met 29 years ago, and we're married 28 years ago.
36
so that's our big
line. We got so much in common, Tim.
Yeah. New service offering coming down the pipe. I've got art, been selling paintings, and we had a bunch of friends over last night doing music, so I'm getting that back on stream. So there's just lots of stuff that actually is converging. Jaden, I love your stuff. You got a huge, awesome vibe. I'm a guitarist. I mean, I'll bang around with other stuff, but I'm a guitarist. So I really, really enjoy your work. And I'm looking forward to allowing myself to be more creative, with the assumption that I'm going to have more space inside.
Beautiful. I would love to see a jam between Jaden and Tim. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
That'd be good.
Heck yeah.
Hey, Amy, does your magazine take music, like songs that are related to gold?
Well, you know what? Yes, because we have opened up to theater and actual like movement communication. So, you know what? Color is so universal. I don't want to limit it to just people working with their hands or doing something like that. So, yes, of course, if there's songs, we have poems, we have all kinds of creativity.
All right.
We expect a gold record.
Yes.
I told Tim the other day, I said, Tim, let's write a song about gold. All right.
I got the first line of it. I'm not even going to give it away. The song came to me immediately. And if the song is as much as one line, I got it done. But I think it's maybe a little bit more.
Might be a bit of an earworm.
Being online with the magazine, it opens up like video and links, and so we can do a lot of stuff with it. I actually have someone who for the first 4 editions did a dance, like she embodied the color and did a whole choreographed Bollywood style dance thing for every edition from the first 4. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
Paint yourself gold and start singing.
Like if you guys need a cellist for that song, let me know.
What, a cellist?
Yeah, I play cello.
No way. Wow. That's
really?
Yeah.
Cello.
Wow.
Like, if you need that in your song, let me know. I'd love to collab.
Well, it is on now. That's happening.
That's happening. Well, the Flow Country Studios is going to be our new retreat space. So we do want to bring, I mean, online is great. It's great to connect in this way, but there's nothing that beats being in person, right? Like in person, nothing beats it. So thank you guys all so much for your time. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for being here. This was such a rich and powerful conversation. Join our Flow Content Creation Challenge. This is a call out to our community. We want to see you get on video, get visible. We need all the love we can get in the world right now. So thank you, everybody. We wish you a great week, and we'll see you next time.
And thank you, Sarah, for great hosting.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Bye.
Just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. If you're looking for a conscious community, we invite you to Flow Network 99. Wake up, Show up, light up, let's flow, baby.